are resuming our monthly conversations about William & Mary's path through pandemic, as we did in the spring. Our goal is to give you insights, to share our challenges and our successes, and to keep improving how we share information. Here's the usual routine, the run of show. I'm going to start with updates where we are now, and then we explore generally big topics that are raised by questions from the William & Mary community, from students and families, from staff, faculty, from alumni, from neighbors. Today's big topics are wellness, safety, and the idea that William & Mary will be different this fall. We want to give you a sense of what we mean by that difference. Today, as always, we've brought in experts from our community to speak to these topics. And we share what we have to say with a lot of humility. None of us have lived through a pandemic before. Basically, everything that we are doing at William & Mary is newly or differently done in some way. And none of us have all the answers. So these conversations are an invitation to you. We're thinking about three kinds of questions together in them. The first is, how do we want to remember ourselves in this moment? We know this is a moment that we will remember for the rest of our lives. The second is, how can we understand the experiences that we're going through, and how, in talking about them together, can we help clarify them? And then the third is, how can we connect at a time of so much uncertainty and fear and vulnerability and see this through together successfully? So let me start with the updates very quickly, where William & Mary is right now. We've begun classes. Roughly 25% of our students are fully remote. Roughly 75% intend to live on or off campus. Graduate and undergraduate courses across the university are majority blended or online, and a minority in person in some form. I'm not giving you the breakdowns because there's a different balance in each school that's consistent with how that school's intending to educate its students this fall. That's the flexibility that we've been aiming for since June. We knew it would make us as adaptable as we needed to be under pandemic, and it meets the widest range of student needs. Based on what we learned in the spring and on student surveys this summer, it's been clear that those needs are very wide indeed. This is what students told us they wanted and needed to be able to choose what's right for them. So I'm back in my office in the Brafferton, and the first phase of students returned 3 weeks ago. That was new students, graduate students, transfer students, international students, student leaders, and others. And it's awesome to have them on campus. We're preparing to welcome the second wave, sophomores, juniors, and seniors who are planning to be on campus, and they're coming over Labor Day weekend. Everybody wants to know about infections on campus. You can see where we are in our dashboard. We're filling that out every week to make it fuller and more robust, and we update it every morning. We're actually in a good place. I say this very cautiously, knowing how tenuous that can be, but also with some optimism. We have taken a different path than many others and are going to continue to learn from our peers from around the country. Some things that we have confidence in are our smaller size, the fact that we did decide to return in a phased way, how de-densified the whole campus is, and that we have an incredible outdoor experience that is already being used, as you're going to hear, very robustly by students. But really, the credit goes to our students for being all in to our community commitment. I'm seeing nearly 100% masks on campus. I'm also grateful to the city of Williamsburg and so many neighbors for joining us in that. We expect there will be cases on campus, and we've taken every step we can to be ready. We're going to continue to respond to what students and families, staff and faculty tell us they're most concerned about. And based on the feedback you give us, we'll evolve and improve our clarity and our practices. We're going to give you some examples of that today. The campus itself is transformed. There's tents all over the campus. There's lights outside, which are really beautiful, in nooks and under trees. There's live music. There's yoga in the amphitheater. We're exploring ways to be social that are safe and creative and using the outdoors for all of its beauty and spaciousness for all it's worth. Remote learning is also transformed. So you'll hear us today talk both about being in person and remote and speak to those choices that students have made. We're exploring ways to create community and provide the services that students most need remotely in a much more robust way than we did in the spring. So to sum that all up, We're doing something that's simple to describe and really hard to achieve. We are running a fall semester that is both remote and in person so that students and families have options and can choose the option that is best for them. This is what we learned this summer and this spring that students want. And whichever path you choose, we will be with you all the way through the semester, the whole way. So it's a really William and Mary thing to do. I'm aware of that. When you have two stark options, choose them both. It's required incredible creativity and dedication, so much effort by staff and faculty and administrators through the summer, and student leaders who've partnered with us in making sure we are attentive to the different vulnerabilities in our community. So I want to acknowledge that effort and say how proud I am and grateful to our staff, our faculty, and our leadership's work. All of us are focused on three goals. The first is to use every resource at our disposal to create safe learning and work environments under pandemic, to mitigate the risk of transmission of the virus, so that students can stay on track for their degrees in the way that's best for them and their families, and faculty and staff can keep working. So with that in mind, I'm going to introduce our panelists. Our topics, first two topics are wellness and safety, and the actions that we're taking to protect our community this semester, recognizing, as I said, the intense vulnerability, fear that many of us feel at this moment. It's a moment of deep underconfidence in the nation and here as well. We know that's felt at William and Mary. It's understandable and it's important to address. So the second topic will be to give you a sense of what William and Mary is like this fall on campus and for those learning and working remotely. Let me introduce our participants, our Dean of Students, Marjorie Thomas. You guys should wave when I introduce you. Dr. Cheesebro, William & Mary's Police Chief and AVP for Safety. She has the most titles of everybody on this Zoom. Dr. Davis, Assistant Director in the Office of Health Promotion. You all know Dr. Davis as the producer and director and voiceover up for our I Can, I Will video on courage that we're going to talk about in a little bit. Student Assembly President, Anthony A.J. Joseph. Welcome, Mr. President. And Assistant Vice President for Student Engagement and Leadership, Dr. Drew Stelljes. So welcome, everybody. It's really great to have you today in this conversation. I'm going to start, I think, by following up on my compliment to our students for holding to that community commitment that we've asked you for. And I want to talk a little bit more about the importance of that commitment as we're bringing the rest of the students back to campus. So Dr. Davis, you were the one who created that I Can, I Will video, that courage intervention program for students. I think it's a transformative program. It teaches us how to think about our mutual vulnerability. It helps us do something that's really difficult, which is to open a conversation that we may feel uncomfortable about in a respectful way, and also to receive that conversation in a respectful way when someone opens it with us. So could you talk a little bit about how you imagined that campaign and what its purpose is?
So most of us, we want to find a way to voice and act on our values and do so in an effective manner. And so I Can, I Will focuses on that, in that it is using, acting on your values and listening to your intuition and not allowing the internal or external pressures to hold you back. um, and finding what you can do and not be constrained by all the things that you think you cannot do. And it helps us establish norms, in that it is empowering us to, um, well, we will have to practice, but to practice and gain a skill to use our values to help shape our community, um, and shape it in a way that aligns with our overall values. And students often talk about, we look out for each other and we take care of each other, which is a value of being concerned for others. And this is going to be a opportunity for us to act on that.
I think as I watched that video, I thought this is an incredible opportunity this fall to learn a skill that is very difficult, that is going to stand us in good stead as we address questions of equity, as we address questions of opportunity and prosperity, and come to know each other in pandemic. You're teaching us how to open a question that's hard. And it's not easy. I've talked to students around campus, and it's not easy to go up to somebody you don't know and say, do you have your mask with you? And then it's not easy to know that you've forgotten one and have to turn around and go get your mask. But you've given us a framework for that. As we thought about what we learned in this national crisis since March, what would be your biggest takeaways that you want students to have in mind as we engage in these kinds of conversations?
Well, we don't know what we don't know, and this is new and it's evolving, so we're still learning. But we do know that wearing a mask and being physically distant and washing your hands can slow the spread. So it's going to be imperative that we are mindful, uh, and we have to be intentional about the distancing and keeping your mask on. And like you said, when I'm looking out my window, students have their mask on. Distancing is hit or miss, but for the most part, we are doing what we have been asked to do. I have, from what I've seen. So you have to be intentional, because I've caught myself about to walk out of my office with my mask off, and I have to like, I'm not going a long distance, but I have to turn around and grab it. So you're gonna have to be intentional about it and be mindful of, oh, I need to make sure I have my mask, or oh, I need to keep space between me and others. Even if we are friends, we still need to have that physical distance.
And we're going to need to carry it through the semester. I mean, I think
Right.
some students have asked for me, I hope we'll be done with this soon, but this is a practice that we will need to carry as a community, in every community, through the end of this pandemic. And it is a long haul ahead. Are you noticing? I think of the shift from a shift that this is a rule to this is a habit, that it's just normal. Sometimes I see students going running, for example, and they'll be carrying their mask on their wrist. They're solo. They're doing an activity that's continuously socially distant outdoors. They don't need to wear a mask, but they're showing us they have it and they're ready to put it on when it's needed. Are there other ways that you're seeing that shift from a rule to a habit?
I haven't necessarily, like, I haven't seen anybody without a mask on, whether
Okay.
I'm walking to Wawa or wherever. Like, the mask has not been a problem. I think we have to be intentional, and I'm speaking to everybody, that when you come back to campus, it's easy to fall back into your habitual behaviors, because your mind is going to remember the campus that you knew and that you were in 2019. But this is a different space, so you need to have a plan ready, and be okay with somebody saying, hey, remember, you have your mask, and don't forget that we have to be physically distanced. It's just like they want us all to be safe. It's not like they're putting you down because you didn't have it on. So be okay with feedback about some of the guidelines.
Anything particularly creative you see student affairs doing, and health and wellness, your unit doing?
So we are still offering virtual options for students. We, as in health and wellness, not just the Office of Health Promotion. Campus Rec is still open. They're offering paddling at Lake Matoka. Uh, we have hikes. So whether you are with us physically or with us spiritually, that is working remotely, you still can be connected. And Drew's going to talk about some other things that will be available, but those are some just quick things that we have.
Thanks. Any big takeaways from your perspective for students who are learning remotely and students who are here?
Just the little things matter, and they make a big difference. And try to be okay with, give yourself some grace, because this is still a transition for us all. So giving yourself grace, and be okay with asking, and asking for help. And as far as, I think the biggest thing I want us all, and not just students, us all as a community, is to do the best that we can to improve, or to maintain, or boost our immune health, because we need to be trying to get as much sleep, eating, socializing, self care, physical activity. All of these things play into our immune health. And so our immune functioning is going to be imperative, not only with the virus, but flu season is coming, and colds, and all of those things will be coming around the corner. So we need to try to make sure that we look at that holistically.
Thanks. And thanks to everybody in health and wellness. You are amazing colleagues and you've done extraordinary work. It makes me Really proud to be at an institution that's so focused on health and wellness. I want to shift to safety now and just again say another strong expression of appreciation. Really, this is to you, Dr. Chief Cheesebro, for the way that William and Mary Police Department plays such a critical role in keeping our campus safe, and the way that you work with our campus community, understand yourself as part of a teaching and learning community, which I think is quite distinctive to the philosophy of this department. So can you talk a little bit about that philosophy of promoting safety in a way that's fully part of a teaching and learning institution?
Sure. First of all, thank you for inviting me to participate in this important conversation. I really appreciate it. And for those that may already know me, you've heard me talk about the tenet of community policing and the fact that the William and Mary Police really focus on being an integral part of the community. Many police departments sort of see themselves as separate, and they're, policing a community that they almost feel separate from, and that's certainly not our goal whatsoever. My belief is that our job is to keep people safe, but also to help them feel safe. So part of being part of the higher education community and environment is that students need to feel safe in order to study, in order to get done what they came here to do. Faculty need to be freed up to be able to focus just on teaching and research and service. And the staff need to be able to feel as if they can focus on their job duties. And so the William and Mary Police Department is really put together with a positive culture of service and support to the community so that this wonderful educational environment can thrive and everybody in it can not only be safe, but feel safe. And that takes a lot of intentionality with values, with values-based leadership on my part. And it takes a lot of focus on who we select to come into this police department. We need people that not only are experienced and trained, but we need people that have the right heart. And I'm guessing that's going to sound a little corny to some people, but it's really the cornerstone of what we do. Because I need police officers that can go out there every single day and try and help. They're going to go out and say, what can I do today to help a student? What can I do today to help a faculty member? And they're not going to be afraid to stand up for what's right. And they're going to make their decisions based on the values of integrity and professionalism and community engagement and fair and impartial policing. And they're going to know that they can stand up and they can say, you matter to us. Black lives matter. They facilitate the voice of students. It's not just about enforcement. That's a very small piece of what we do. What we do is support this entire community. And we may not always get it right. We may not, but that's why it's so important that we partner with the student body and the rest of the community.
Really early this summer, I was talking simultaneously with you and your department about building you into an early community conversation about how William and Mary would be different. Had similar conversations with student assembly leadership and with other student leaders. AJ, I wonder if you and Chief can talk a little bit about the plan for the fall and the way that you're thinking about building trust between police and students from both sides of that conversation.
Chief, would you like to go first or would you like me?
Your choice, AJ.
I'll start it. And again, thank you, Dr. Rowe, for inviting me here for this conversation. Chief and I have been going back and forth, talking, texting throughout the summer to try to figure out ways to make students feel safe, right? This racial re-reckoning in our country of racial systemic violences put a lot of fear into students as they come back here. And it is our chief priority as Student Assembly to make them feel safe, to make sure that they know that they matter and that they matter to this university. So we released our plan to tackle systemic injustice. The buck stops here. And that entails a lot of actions that we are going to take with community, with students, to really synthesize and develop ways that are going to make us safe, such as we're going to create a student advisory group with the chief. And we're going to meet with them regularly and go over policies and demographics and different things that they're doing and see what works and what doesn't. How can we rebuild trust within our community, right? Another thing that we're going to do with community reconciliation initiatives is try to create opportunities where, you know, police don't have to look like police, you know, and students can come and they can have a part and ability to humanize one another and to talk about, well, this is how it feels when you come into my community like X. Let's have a candid conversation about that. These candid conversations and discussions are important because we need to understand how each side works, how each side thinks, and why reactions are positive or negative. And I think William & Mary is a unique place to do that because we already care a lot about one another. And it's time to really just manifest that in these conversations that will produce meaningful change.
And I think one of the great byproducts of our conversations this summer is a realization on our part that we needed to go ahead and produce some information for the community right away. And so I sent out a message to the student body and the community about just the horrific police misconduct, unconscionable use of force that we have seen, and that we condemn that type of policing. That's not who we are. And so we went ahead and we posted our use of force policy. We posted our mission statement, our values, our oath of office. We posted our fair and impartial policing policy. We do have a duty to intervene. So it's not just enough for an individual police officer to be accountable. We're accountable to each other. And we have to be able to step in if we see something that we think isn't right. And that goes back to having the right heart. You have to go out with the right intentions. And committing to continuing to publish our traffic citation data, our enforcement data, if we make an arrest, broken down by demographics. And AJ and I have talked about that. I'm going to be available once a month on a community virtual meeting at first, but I'll update all those statistics and we'll discuss what people think about the policies that we published. And these opportunities are opportunities to express concerns and ask questions. And I think the most important part of those monthly open meetings will be the fact that I get a chance to listen and that I can hear, while you came out with the best of intention trying to do something, it wasn't interpreted the way you may have thought. And so here's some suggestions on how we could do it even better next time. And I think these Healthy Together patrols are one example of that, where we heard back from the community versus being in unmarked cars. Although you tried to sort of dress down in the polo shirt uniform, we'd prefer it if it was more open. You were in maybe all in golf carts if we can get it that way, and really foster that interpersonal communication up close. And we heard that, and we've made that adjustment. So we're really looking forward to hearing from the student advisory group, as well as the entire community, because I understand why the trust is low. I really do. And I want to do everything we can to build upon what was a pretty good foundation here, but it can be even better. And we need to be the most effective we can be in communications and support of our students so they can do what they're here to do.
Chief, I really appreciate that, and I apologize also for the noisy phone now turned off. One of the things that I think about a lot in this moment is, what are we learning? What are the modes of creativity that we're going to continue to do because they're so much stronger than what we had before? And it seems to me that to have student assembly, have an advisory group, to have our chief of police meeting monthly in open conversations, that's a structure that's been a long time coming, and really a strong one that will allow us to continue to move in this mode of continual improvement and open communication going forward. So it stands out for me as one of those many moments of recognition. This is something we want to continue. This is actually going to make us stronger as a community to adopt this as our normative practice. We learned it under pandemic. We learned it with this incredible moment of reckoning with long coming issues this fall of injustice and racial inequity and this summer. And that is going to make us fundamentally a better institution to have that kind of structure in place. So I do want to invite the whole community to think about what are those long-term improvements that we're discovering right now that can stay with us as we go forward.
And we're also looking at ways we can change our day-to-day patrols to take advantage of some of these things that we have learned up to now.
So let's shift from here to that larger question of how fall 2020 is different than fall 2019. Thinking about what we've heard is extraordinary effort and intentionality. I think I want to pull that thread through mindfulness, through what Dr. Davis said, what Chief Cheesebro and what AJ have said, the idea of intentionality in the effort so that the effort is going in the right place. And the importance of that in a moment when there's such a strong sense of risk and we're asking for a lot of mutual obligation. So every chance we get, we say this, that the fall semester will be different. I want to turn to Dean Thomas and to Dr. Stelljes to say, why is it important to have that recognition that, as Dr. Davis said, this is not 2019?
Well, I know for what we've heard from students is they really want to be back in the community, in whatever that means. This place means so much, and the people that are here mean so much. And I think the love of this place, right? I think as AJ alluded to, can sometimes put us in a mindset that coming year, it will be the way it has been in the past. And part of the messaging for us at this time is to really remember, while Williamsburg and our campus is here to receive you and create spaces where we want you to enjoy it, they are going to occur in a different way. For students who are going to be in in-person classes, you're going to be doing that, the overwhelming majority of you, with masks and being required to be physically distant. That a lot of painstaking work has gone into making sure that you can come here and be safe and still experience William and Mary. And that different doesn't mean bad. It just means different right now so that we can be our most healthy and our most safe. And we've gone through a lot to ensure that there's messaging all over campus to reinforce that even our programming and services reinforce that message, that if we can really hold on and do this together, that we can maintain a semester and an academic year that allows us to take stock into all this place has to offer. And that's even keeping in mind for the support that we're receiving from those students who've chosen to be remote. You know, how do we ensure that they are having a positive and engaging experience? A lot of effort going into using innovation and technology so that not only in the classroom space, but as it pertains to your social development and engagement, that there are creative opportunities for you to still remain part of this community. And that safety piece is such a big part of that. And, you know, whether it's signage or your peers or members of the faculty and staff, you know, maybe saying to someone like me who may have forgotten a mask in the office to say, Dean Thomas, did you remember your mask? And having to turn around in the campus center, right, real quick and get that we're all here and we're doing that with care and the love that we have for each other and for the William and Mary community. And that gives me such pride and joy. You know, I was sharing with the president, I wore yellow in honor of the Twampy meme of me being a SpongeBob and my transformation from this softy SpongeBob to a real buff and firm SpongeBob on Twampy memes. And I get where students are coming from. And for the student that shared with me, I say thank you because I wasn't aware of it. And I think what's important about that is we've had to be strong about our messaging because we want our students to know that this is important. We want our students to know that while at times it can feel like an inconvenience, we are making a commitment to do that together, and it will have positive consequences as a result if we can maintain that, that approach. And most importantly, that students said to us, as you referenced, Dr. Rowe, that they really wanted to be back here. And for those who made that choice to join us in this community, that they wanted messaging to be strong. They wanted an affirmation of their commitment to be safe together and healthy together. And as Chief and I recall, we're doing our Healthy Together patrols. Students were giving, air high fives and telling us so much how they appreciated, doing shout outs like, is that the patrol? Just saying thank you, because when we do this all together, it can make a difference in how we experience this campus this academic year.
I've been thinking a lot about what were the biggest hurdles in mindset shift from 2019 to 2020. And I think one is that behavior that's really normal and wonderful in 2019 can be risk behavior right now. I'm thinking if you put a bunch of people together who are asymptomatic, without masks, in an enclosed space with low ventilation, and for several hours doing something like dancing together, which is normal and awesome behavior in 2019, that's the recipe for contagion that we're seeing around the country. And I just want to say how grateful I am to students for understanding that, and then looking for the way to be together socially that works, that provides ventilation, that's in smaller groups, that uses masks, and really affirming that our goal is to be social one way or another, and yet to recognize the differences intentionally in a way that affirms our care for each other and our respect for each other. If you, and I would open this to anybody on the call, more students are going to be moving in this weekend. What have we learned in the last move-in experience that will make this round smoother, and that, as we have talked before, we might want to carry forward as a practice we're always going to do?
Definitely. I think one that is going to, for our returning students next weekend, you're going to be able to check in electronically. I think that will provide some ease in terms of identification and being able to know where you're going, and if you need assistance, who is available to provide that assistance. There's going to be a lot of signage, not only to direct you on how to access our buildings, but also in terms of providing guidelines that reinforce how we should conduct ourselves in terms of that move-in process. There's a lot more in terms of sharing our expectations explicitly about how to wear masks, when to wear masks, how to engage in physical distant behavior, in particular in the residence halls, which we believe will help in that first day transition for many of our students who, again, were experiencing this campus in a different way in the past. And more than anything, making sure that if students have questions or families have questions, that there are accessible staff, more accessible staff to help facilitate a smooth process for you and your family.
Anyone else, what's different from your perspective that people should know as they move in?
And I think to that point, one thing that we have improved on, and we have worked with Dean Thomas and Dr. Ambler and several others, is just clarity and instruction, right? Making sure that we're absolutely clear with what we say and how we say it, and that we can thoughtfully convey exactly what the expectations are. I know one of the greatest concerns Student Assembly has received over the past several weeks is that this isn't necessarily clear to me, I don't understand it. And we've had several conversations with administrators to resolve that and to work towards being more clear, being more direct, and being more transparent. So moving into this weekend, as more students come back into campus, I think we need to lean into that even more than ever and make sure that they understand the process and they understand the decisions that are being made.
That's been incredibly helpful. Just the feedback, we need to sign up in this place saying these kinds of things, for example, so that it's always available at the moment that you need to learn it. Yeah. Dr. Stelljes, let me invite you in and ask you to talk a little bit about that larger question. How is this fall different than 2019?
Well, first of all, like you, President Rowe, I am immensely proud and impressed with our administration and our staff. We have hundreds of staff who are on the front line who are supporting our students every moment of every day, and we do it with a common cause, a call to service, because we believe in the mission and the vision of the university. So I want to let everyone know that we're ready. We are ready for students to return to campus, and we're ready to support student engagement online away from campus. We have been working really hard for the last 4 or 5 months to get ready. And we are so committed to creating a safe and engaging learning environment for every student, whether you're here on campus or you're learning remotely. And we're using all the tools at our disposal, and we're using newly emerging best practices. And because we have expertise on campus, we're developing best practices, and I'm really proud of that. We're ready. And as President Rowe alluded to, we've created new iconic spaces. And what a wonderful outcome out of this unexpected time is that there's new spaces that now will become a part of the culture and the milieu of the university. We've lit up the Sadler Terrace and the Crimdale Meadow and other various patios. And we've got Adirondack chairs scattered throughout the campus. Students can borrow camp chairs. They can get into set up a hammock, and they can utilize the new outdoor classrooms and study spaces in the 17 tents that we have. So there's so much opportunity really in this unique time to be creative and to practice a sense of possibility, so that we're really working to meet the vision and the dreams and the goals of our students. I think about it this way, is that every one of our students, whether you're a freshman or a graduate student, has worked really hard to get to this place in their lives. For some, it's been a 15, 20, or even 30-year journey to get here. And that's what motivates all of us. That's why we mask up. That's why we physically distance, because this is a dream come true for so many of our students. We have also alluded to the fact that we have an array of different activities and programs and such for students. Our recognized student organizations are not are still occurring. They're still in action. The meetings themselves are virtual, but they're able to plan activities, and we'll work with them to support that. They have to put a COVID plan together, and we have to track attendance. But there is that. Student organizations can still plan events. But then in addition to that, we have a wide laundry list of different activities for involvement. And for those of you who are listening in today, I'd encourage you to go to the main William & Mary page and check out the article that was published today about all the different activities on campus. Anything from virtual events that Alma Mater Productions is setting up. The B. McLeod Wellness Rec Center is open, and it's being utilized. The Campus Rec has set up all sorts of things, from lawn games to campfires on Friday nights and outdoor camping. How fun is that? Camping, obviously it's single tents and hammocks, but camping around campus. And we do have intramural sports that are singles, like singles tennis and others. And then every Friday night, we're going to have a live performer at Sadler Terrace or the Crimdale Meadow under the lights. And so my thought on this is that let's use this as a real opportunity. Be outside, take advantage of the beauty of fall in Williamsburg. And also, I think, see this as a time of new beginnings and really a great opportunity. We are going to succeed, and we're building a campus and a community and a university that can be different and better into the future. A space, all of our space for vibrant conversation and regular celebration of our values in action, inside buildings and outside. And that's what I'm excited about. And that's what I'm really proud of our administrators and staff for doing so much behind the scenes, even as we speak, there are literally hundreds of administrators and staff that are doing work behind the scenes to make it a success for our students because we believe in this opportunity.
Thanks. That's lovely. I want to thank everybody here, Dean Thomas and Dr. Chief and Dr. Davis, Dr. Stelljes and President Joseph for joining us, and to everyone who tuned in. Thanks for listening. We're going to be resuming these conversations monthly as we go through the fall. We're going to continue to focus on the big issues that you bring us. As AJ said, we are constantly working on ways to be as clear as we can about how we're operating this semester. And we welcome your questions and your issues because we know we improve in that communication and response. Clarity is one of the things that matters so much at a time of incredible uncertainty and change. And so much of what we're all navigating is new. We know this is an incredibly challenging time for all. There will be adversity ahead as we make our way through this pandemic. I think there will also be joy and creativity. And I know there will be resilience because this is a community that has persevered and will persevere. And we're going to stay laser focused on safeguarding health and ensuring that students have access to learning in the way that's best for them. So I hope you'll continue to tune in to tell us what you'd like to hear more about. And for now, stay well, William and Mary.